GMs for Hire.
Welcome back, everybody, to GMs for Hire. My name is Will Polson alongside Matt Perry today to bring you the LCS preview for the MLB postseason, as well as a little bit of an LDS review or recap. If you got to see our LDS preview, it was between me and RJ. We went 3 for 4. Both of us went 3 for 4 on teams. But, man, one of our decisions looked really, really bad if you look at it in hindsight. So we'll go over and we'll start with the National League first. And the National League, we have the Braves versus the Dodgers. The Braves were facing the Miami Marlins, who managed to upset the Chicago Cubs in the first round of the playoffs. And the Miami Marlins, they got handled like we thought they were going to get handled. I mean, we thought it was a little bit of a fluke to see them beat Chicago, but then again, they took 2 games right out of them. So maybe not, but they did not play nearly as well as they did against Chicago whenever they faced the Braves. If I'm not mistaken, the finals of those games, in game 1, they lost 5, or they took the game 9-5, the Braves. Then in game 2, shut out the Marlins 2-0. And then yesterday, capping it off with a 7-0 win. So 2 games in which the Braves pitching staff pitched shutouts. The Miami Marlins offense looked stagnant and definitely looked a little bit like that rebuilding team that we thought we were getting this season. Wouldn't you agree, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to participate in the predictions, but if I did, I would have went with the Braves. Pitching is definitely the lead story here, despite all the runs that the Braves put up. The Braves have a fantastic offense, but I think what everyone should really be focused on, especially heading into this series against the Dodgers, is their pitching. You got young guys like Max Fried, Ian Anderson, pitching really well, pitching like vets. And I think that's really important how they are handling themselves throughout the playoffs, showing a lot of class. And yeah, and just to mention the offense, I mean, Marcell Ozuna's having a great season. Freddie Freeman's still getting it done offensively. And you have Ronald Acuna Jr. and Ozzie Albies, as extras, basically. So yeah, a lot of star power growing on that Braves team. They're young, they're up and coming. I'd be scared if I was the Dodgers, but yeah, the Marlins, I'm not surprised. They could have handled the Cubs, and they did. The Cubs were definitely kind of flukes. I think everyone could agree with that. I don't think they would have made the playoffs if it was a full season, but yeah, the little Cinderella story would have been nice, but it definitely shows some promise. They showed us that you can't really sleep on them because you never know what they're capable of. I'm looking forward to see how the Marlins go next season, but yeah, it was a good season for them. Definitely their best in a while. Look out for the Braves though.
Definitely the Braves pitching staff has done a lot better than everybody, at least we have expected. Whenever you look at it, Kyle Wright and Ian Anderson both making postseason debuts this season, and so far neither one of them has allowed a run. Kyle Wright's only had 1 appearance in that game 3, that deciding game against the Marlins. And then Ian Anderson has pitched both game 2 of the wild card and game 2 of the LDS. So they've done very, very well. Max Fried looked very good in his first game against the Reds. Not so much in the game against the Marlins, but I mean, you're going to have some games here and there. So you're very much correct. Whenever the pitching staff has done miles ahead of what we've expected, I think that has to be the storyline whenever you look at it, because are they going to keep continuing to pitch above where everybody's kind of putting them at, or are they going to come back down to earth? Ian Anderson's had a great season. Kyle Wright's had a great season, and then they're pitching just as well in the playoffs. And since this is their first, I want to say this is their first year, at least full year in the MLB. And so the Dodgers, if they have seen them, haven't seen them much. And so that'll be interesting to see exactly how LA does with it. And that kind of lets you know where our picks went a little bit downhill in that LDS preview video, as the Los Angeles Dodgers swept through the Padres and made them look a little bit less coherent. They looked like a great team. They looked phenomenal throughout the regular season. Definitely seemed like if they were in any other division, they'd be the number 1. They just happen to be in the division with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers let them know why they are the first place team and not the Padres. Sweeping them out in 3 games, a 5-1 loss in the first one for San Diego, then a 6-5 loss, and then finally capped it off with a 12-3 L from the Dodgers, and the Dodgers offense really woke up. All of these games putting up more than, more than 5 runs. In fact, a little fun fact, in the LDS for both the American League and the National League, only 2 games were decided in which the winners had less than 5 runs. So offenses were booming in the LDS, to say the least. One of those games being the 2-0 score of Game 2 between Atlanta and Miami, and then the other one we'll get to here in a little bit. So, the Dodgers, their offense really stood out. Their pitching didn't do too great. In Game 1, looked good. I want to say it was Walker Buehler, pitched very well, hold the Padres to only 1 run. But 5 runs to the Padres in the Game 2 was a little bit shaky. Game 3, 3 runs. So they did okay. Definitely not the showing that they had against the Milwaukee Brewers. So maybe whenever they face a more competent offense, it could go a little bit more downhill. And I think that even though that the Padres are fun to watch, and I think that they're a great team whenever it comes to an offensive side of the ball, I'd like to think that Atlanta is a little bit more of a complete lineup from 1 to 9, in my opinion. So I think these Dodgers team could see fits, but I mean, they really put a stamp on who they are in this last series.
Yeah, when it comes to the Dodgers, I'm not really worried about them. We know how good of a team they are. When it comes to the LDS, the Padres might not have been able to steal the series, but they did steal our hearts. They really were able to show us how exciting and electric of a team they can be. Of course, led by Fernando Tatis Jr., their star, their face of the franchise, what have you. They're going to be really exciting to watch. They kind of remind me of the White Sox in the American League, a young, up-and-coming team. The pitching's just not where it needs to be yet, though. They didn't have a healthy Clevenger. He got pulled early in that one game. Dinelson Lamet, who had a real good breakout year, wasn't able to make either of the postseason rosters. So, those guys were definitely missed, and it showed. The pitching staff struggled as a result of it. I hope the Padres don't stop picking up pitching because they need to keep going. Even if it's more bullpen help, Kirby Yates can't do it all. So, keep piling it up, keep building that pitching, and the wins will come. Like the Marlins, though, the Padres definitely showed us that you can't take them lightly, and they're coming. I'm honestly proud of them for having a good year, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. But when it comes to the NLCS, the Dodgers and Braves, honestly, the Dodgers have a lot more to prove than the Braves. And I think you can agree with me on this because we discussed this yesterday. The Dodgers have not won a World Series in many years, and they've been to how many in the past couple of years? At least like 3, right? I want to
say at least 3, yes.
Yeah, and they haven't won any of them. Something needs to give. Dave Roberts is a fantastic manager. I really like the front office there. They make all the right moves, it seems. They got Mookie Betts, and they have one of the best rotations in the league, in my opinion, with Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, guys like that. I don't know what else they can do. I don't think a rebuild is in order, but something has to give, and they're under more pressure, in my opinion, than the Braves, despite the Braves not making a championship series for, I want to say, at least 10 years. I know it's been a while, but so all eyes are on the Dodgers this series because if they choke this again, if they choke this big opportunity, they're going to become a laughing stock. And there's just, what are you going to do? They're going to be known as the guys that choke out the big games. They're facing a high-powered offense and way more pitching than the Padres have. So
looking at it, they've only been to 2 World Series, but they've both been in very recent years, 2018 and 2017, ultimately losing to the Astros and the Red Sox. But they also haven't missed a postseason since 2012. And so to be that good for that long and nothing come out of it, it's looking a little sketchy, especially this going into 2020. So that means this is 8 straight seasons in which they've been to the postseason, and they have nothing to show. I mean, they don't. You don't get sure, you can be the National League rep, but at the end of the day, what does that get you? I mean, at the end of the day in baseball, you need the World Series trophy. And if you don't have it, then something's going on. And this could be, as you mentioned, we've talked about this. The Dodgers have a lot to prove, and going 8 years straight, not winning anything, you start to question a lot of things inside your organization, because they've shown us they can hit. They've shown us they can pitch. So what's the problem? Is it internal? Is it some personalities? Is it coaching? Is it GM? Where does it go for the Dodgers? And so we've talked that they have the potential to be the biggest dynasty flop in history, because that team is electric. That team's won the division, I want to say, every single year since 2012 when they didn't make the playoffs. I want to say they won 7 or 8 straight division titles. They've dominated the National League West, but they have nothing to show for it other than division titles. So what exactly the Dodgers can do about that, who knows? And what exactly the move will be if they lose the series, again, who knows? Well, I guess it'll be interesting to watch, because are they going to try to contend another year and then try to blow it up? Are they going to even try to blow it up at all? Or are they just going to keep accepting the fact that they're just not there? Because something's obviously got to change. They're missing some unit, who knows what, but yeah, for sure. The Dodgers, I think you're more than correct whenever you say the Dodgers have a lot to prove, because the Braves are a young team. I mean, there's nobody on the Braves that's really aging and where they're like, we need to win now. I mean, they're at their core, they are so young. They're one of the youngest teams in the league. So, so I mean, if they don't get it done this year, they've got plenty of time. So
even if they lose, even if the Braves lose, this isn't the end for them. Acuna's what, 24, 25?
Oh, somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, you could fact check that, but they have so much time. I think they have a good 10-year chunk here, and I don't even know if they're fully into it, because I know they still have prospects like Christian Pache. He's not even up and running yet.
You know how you said 24 or 25?
Yeah.
He'll be 23 this December.
See, that's
even younger than we thought.
He has not even hit his prime yet, and then that's not even including Albies, and then the pitching. Fried is finally getting into his groove. Anderson, who was the other one? Kyle Wright.
Mm-hmm.
If this team gets a little bit of a better bullpen, I mean, this team looks fantastic for the next 10 years. Re-sign Marcell Ozuna. That's got to be a big deal in the offseason. Get Dansby Swanson to hit the gym or something. Get him a little more pop in his bat, and you guys are going to be rolling. But, yeah, I'm going to be big on the Braves the next few years because, like you said, the future's bright.
Absolutely. But that'll take us to the American League. We'll hit up the American League, and then we'll also go over our predictions after that. So going over to the first series, it was the Houston Astros taking on the Oakland Athletics. And unfortunately, though we predicted it, we got it right. We were kind of calling the bluff of the Oakland Athletics. We kind of figured that the Houston Astros were going to find a way to pull this out. And so much as they did. They took game 1 in the series 10-5, and then took game 2 as well, 5-2. Facing elimination, the Athletics are able to take a win at the score of 9-7, but ultimately get knocked off by a score of 11-6. When the big problem with the Astros this season was their bats. Their bats were so cold to start the season. They looked awful. At a point, I want to say they were pushing 10 games under 500. They looked pitiful for how they were hitting. And in this series, between 10 runs, 5 runs, 9 runs, and 11 runs, I don't know if that's a knock on the Oakland A's pitching staff, or if the bats are just finally waking up. Because if the bats are waking up the way this Astros team is pitching, which is shocking, by the way, they are serious contenders, unfortunately. Obviously that they're the evil empire. Nobody wants to see them win, but if their bats get going, obviously that's what carries their team, especially without Justin Verlander. So this Astros team could be very dangerous moving forward.
Well, it's not that hard for your offense to wake up when your opposing team's aces are Mike Fiers and Sean Manaea. I definitely think the Oakland A's need to work on pitching. That's been their biggest problem ever since they got rid of Sonny Gray. I don't know. Jesus Luzardo and AJ Puck definitely have to step up. Their 2 youngest guns in the rotation. They're supposed to be big one day. We'll see what happens if they could stay healthy. But, yeah, I hate the Astros. I'm not going to lie to you. Ever since last season, of course, what they did to the Yankees, and then finding out that they did that shit to the Dodgers and all the other teams too, it just rubs me the wrong way, and I think I'm not alone in that. I think there are many people that are on my side with that. And just the way they're going about it, it's not that many of them. Almost all of them have shut up by now. But Carlos Correa specifically, I know he hit damn near 500 in the DS, and that's, great. He is a good player, but the fact that he acts like they're underdogs now for doing something wrong and for being the bad guys, and like no one wants to see them win because like we're haters. We're not haters because we are haters because you're assholes, but we're haters because you did something wrong. You basically forged a victory and stole a championship out of the hands of 29 other teams, and it's not morally right, and it's straight cheating. And there's no reason to act like you're the underdog. Just own up to it. Just shut up, keep your head down, and play better. Bregman at least keeps his head down now. I don't know how. I think he's playing better than he did in the regular season. But the fact that the Astros made it this far after finishing under 500 in the regular season, is ridiculous. And I know they're not the only team to make the playoffs after finishing under 500, but I think they're the only team left that finished below 500. It's just ridiculous. What other team but the Astros? I can't say I'm shocked. I had to say I saw them beating the A's too. Until the A's work on their pitching, they're not going to do anything. The bullpen is solid with Liam Hendricks, but they still need more. But yeah, I'm upset. I hope Altuve doesn't get a hit all series. They're going against Rays pitching now, and we'll move to the Rays-Yankees series here in a second. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy task on them, and them being without Verlander and McCullers not playing to par. It's not going to be easy for them. I hope they suffer. I hope it hurts them.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that they are going to be up against a pretty solid gauntlet of the Rays pitching staff. Moving on to that series, by far the best series in the LDS round. Nail biter, came all the way down to the wire. It went exactly how we even said it would. We both said, RJ and I both said it was going 5. We both said it was going to come down to some poetic moment, and poetry was the best way to put it. If even you being a Yankees fan, you got to know that I think you put out a tweet that said there's no better way for that to end. I mean, if you're going to lose as a Rays fan, if they're going to win, there was no better way to do it. Starting in game 1, the Yankees had a dominant performance, going 9-3, taking game 1. And then they end up dropping the next 2 games in the series by a score of 7-5 and then 8-4 in favor of the Rays. Yankees pitching staff comes back and they pitch very well in game 4, ultimately taking a 5-1 victory. I want to say that was behind Jordan Montgomery. And then in game 5, the Rays are able to hold on a 2-1 victory, the only other game to finish with the winner scoring less than 5 runs, coming capped off by a Michael Brousseau home run off of Aroldis Chapman. If you want to check out Matt's link, he put out a whole video ranting about the Yankees. I'll make sure to plug that card right up there in the top right corner. And you can see exactly how he feels regarding Yankees from the Yankees perspective of it. But whenever it comes down to it, I mean, the series was phenomenal. I mean, you got to see all types of things between offense, between great pitching. We got to see a debut. Us being USF students, we got to see the first ever debut for a pitcher in the postseason in Shane McClanahan, and he looked pretty well. He struggled a little bit, but he did good as well in some tight situations that they brought him in. And that this was a very great series for baseball fans, and this was exactly what you wanted. And unfortunately, with the way the other series went, we didn't get a lot of this. And to see such a close series, so back and forth, you never really knew who had the upper hand. But the Rays able to be that scrappy team that they are and sneak it out. It's got to feel good for Tampa just because they've already won the cup, and now they're hopeful going into the championship series. So I know you're in Tampa, though you're a Yankees fan. So just take me just a quick synopsis of what you're seeing of the Rays. We've heard what you've heard about the Yankees. What are you seeing from the Rays in this series?
The Rays truly earned it. And like you said, this was the best series to watch, in my opinion. The Yankees and Rays have something brewing. It's not chemistry. It's not beef. It's something in the middle. It's a little bit tension, a little bit drama. And we saw just enough of that in game 5. The Yankees did make plenty of mistakes. I like you said, I went over it in a separate video. But yeah, the Rays just straight out played them. Payrolls aside, however you want to compare them. The Rays were the better team in this series. Glasnow, Snell, Morton, that pitching staff's great. The bullpen held it down. Diego Castillo, Peter Fairbanks. Nick Anderson. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? G-Man Choi always seems to have Garrett Cole's number at some point when they play. Randy Arozarena had an amazing series. I know he cooled off the last couple games, but what he did in the first 3 games was fantastic. And yeah, they were able to take advantage of it. I saw the ending coming. Honestly, I saw it from a mile away. I was actually on my way home from work. I was listening to WFAN, John Sterling on the radio, and once Brousseau came up to the plate, I was like, this would make too much sense. And Brousseau works a 10-pitch at bat. This guy went undrafted, and he comes in and does stuff like this. A 10-pitch at bat to Chapman. Then bam, left field seats. You can't write it any better. Maybe if it was the bottom of the 9th, I don't know. But the Rays got all up out of the dugout. It was like it was the bottom of the 9th for them anyway. And then you bring in you keep Castillo in for the 9th. He shuts him down 1-2-3. I mean, what more can you ask for? It was a pitcher's duel, but a duel nonetheless. And I didn't get to see any of Game 5, but the last stuff that I heard, I mean, if you're a Rays fan, that's got to be some entertaining stuff. I'm happy for the Rays. I congratulate them. For sure, they earned it. You're not the 1 seed in the AL for nothing. And yeah, I just really hope they could beat the Astros. But the Yankees have their own issues they need to regard. The Rays, for now, they can bask in the glory of beating the Yankees, but they have a arguably even tougher task now. So
definitely a great series for Rays fans. And I think I want to give a little bit of hats off to Kevin Cash, because Kevin Cash, though a little bit shaky in some questionable decisions in some earlier games, but he really managed that bullpen well in the final game. Glasnow came in and faced 9 hitters. And then I want to say Anderson came in next and he faced 9 hitters. Then Fairbanks came in, faced 8, and then Castillo came in and faced 7. So it was a phenomenal performance by the Rays bullpen to come in and try to cover up a short outing by Glasnow. Because I want to say Cole went pretty deep for only 3 days rest. What was it, 5 or 6?
He went 5 1/3. I mean, he gave us everything he could, and I think he earned his money there, because without him starting, I think we would have been out of the game from the start. But, he leaves the game. It's a tie 1-1 game. I mean, he gave us what he could. I think that was the only hit he gave up too. Both sides only had 3 hits each. And Judge hit the solo shot, yes. But the only hit that Cole gave up was the solo shot to Meadows, and then 9 strikeouts on his ledger. So yeah, Cole did great. He really shoved when he needed to, and I'm so proud, so glad we have him. But it wasn't enough in the end.
At the end of the day, the Rays are just able to find just enough to be able to get by them. But again, as you mentioned, this is going to be a great series to come up here in the future, especially going to see what both teams are going to see do in the offseason. I'm assuming, hopefully, being the Rays getting this far and being the number 1 team in the American League, hopefully they can bump up that payroll a little bit more. Hopefully they'll be able to make something happen. But until then, I mean, they have the scrappy guys to make it happen anyway. They're of recent years, they're almost the American League version of the Cardinals, to where they don't have that star power, but they're annoying and they don't go away. And so that pitching staff has been amazing. And then they've got a couple of guys that just managed to hit, like Randy Arozarena came up through the Cardinals organization and then being sent over to Tampa Bay, and he's played phenomenal. I mean, he was a big staple in the first couple of games of that series, and a huge staple in the wild card round. So phenomenal showing by him and a couple other players as well. But that brings us to the Final 4. We've got Houston and Tampa in the American League. We've got Atlanta and LA in the National League. This is an amazing time to be alive. If you told me at the beginning of the season that this was going to be the Final 4, I'd believe you. It's very, very likely of these teams. We knew these teams were going to be good. We didn't know how good, but the Astros definitely fell under expectations. And then all the other teams, I would argue, played well above expectations. So it's nice to see that these are the Final 4 teams. But let's start in the American League. We've heard you talk about how much you hate the Astros, and obviously I do, and anybody who's a baseball fan hates the Astros. But what is your prediction for the championship series in the American League?
All bias aside, hate or no hate, I don't think the Astros have the pitching to get this done. I do think offense will be there for both sides, but it won't be enough for the Astros. I'm going to go Rays in 6.
See, this is a very interesting one because I don't think either team has the pitching to get it done. Yes, the Rays have the depth or the Rays have 3 outstanding starters whenever it comes to Snell, Glasnow, and Morton, but they had a lot of question marks going into that 4th game, and you need 4 games to win this series. So, but when you mention that, I mean, after Valdez and who even is it Urdiki? Is it Urdiki? Okay, yeah. But I mean, and then after that, who do you go to? James? Like, I mean, who is it really? And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how Houston goes about approaching a 4-game series, especially without Verlander. Oh, they do have Greinke. Forgot all about Greinke. I don't know why, but
it wasn't fantastic against the A's. He only went 5 innings, gave up 4 or 5 runs, so it wasn't amazing either.
We'll see exactly what he can do. I know they've been riding the hot hand of Framber Valdez, and he's been pitching very well, only allowing 2 runs so far in 2 postseason games. So we'll see exactly how they address their pitching staff. But ultimately, the way the offense is lighting up for Houston and the way the pitching staff is pitching for Tampa Bay, I think it's going to be, as you mentioned, a late series. I think it'll go 7. But ultimately, just from an unbiased standpoint, I would also have to go with Tampa Bay. I can't imagine that they would manage to flop this series. They've been the hot hand in the American League all season. They've been playing very well. There's always somebody in their offense who manages to get it done, even whenever you don't expect it. There's nobody really in their lineup, even including their bench, who can't come up and get a hit when you need it. Zunino can, he has power. KK showed that he could put some balls over the wall in this series against the Yankees. He came up with a couple of clutch hits, and then all of their bench bats are pretty solid, whether it be Perez, whether it be Brousseau. It doesn't matter exactly who they're going to have on the bench, but they've managed to show out. So we're both going with Tampa Bay, 1-6, 1-7. But that'll bring us to the National League, in which the Braves are going to be hosted by LA, of course, in a neutral site. But what are your predictions going into the National League Championship Series?
Well, I mentioned earlier how the Braves are still young and how Acuna is still, we found out, not even 23 yet. And they really haven't hit their prime yet. And yes, they've showed promise, but I think I do have to give it to the more seasoned playoff veterans in this case, that being the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is going to be a really good series. I think this will be the better series of the 2. Both stacked offenses. I think at the moment the Braves pitching kind of outweighs it. We'll see how Kershaw can do. I think he's the one to look at more than Buehler. But yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. I'm going to have to go with Dodgers in 7. I do think this is going to be a good series. Hopefully going to have a good ending. I'll be watching it intently, hoping for some good action. But yeah, the Braves next couple of years, I'd maybe give them the upper hand as the Dodgers players start to age. We'll see who's there next year. They have a couple of key free agents, but for now, I got to go with the boys in Los Angeles.
This is, just like you mentioned, I think this is the more entertaining series. I think this is going to be more of the coin flip series, really. This is more of the who do you take? Because if the Dodgers pitch the way they pitch, it's going to be Dodgers. If the Braves with the Braves, it sits in the young hands of Ian Anderson and Kyle Wright. If they can pitch the way they've been pitching, it's lights out Dodgers. But this series is tough, and ultimately at the end of the day, my heart says Atlanta. My heart doesn't want to go with the Dodgers, but my brain says Dodgers. My brain is telling me to go with Los Angeles, just on paper, as mentioned. They're not exactly older. They do definitely have some more veterans, but they also have more experience. They've been there before. They've been in the World Series before. A lot of these players have been in World Series. Even people who came over like Mookie Betts, obviously he's won a ring against the Dodgers, actually. So, everybody in their lineup's been there. There's nobody really that's been on the Dodgers team that hasn't made a postseason yet. And so it's going to come down to a little bit of experience, I think, as you mentioned, and I could see the Dodgers taking it in 7. I don't know if this series doesn't go 7. I think it'll kind of come down to the wire either way. I'd be thoroughly shocked if a team gets swept or if a team gets taken out in 5 in either series. But definitely, like I said, my heart wants to go Rays Braves, but my head's telling me Rays Dodgers, and so I'm going to go with the Dodgers in 7, similar to you as well. That'll bring up the end of our predictions here. Whenever it comes to the championship series for both the American League and the National League, very 2 interesting matchups here. And it'll be interesting. We're getting great teams to go into the World Series, as you know, as always. Well, I can't say as always. Sometimes you look at it whenever you have like a Royals Mets World Series, that's a little bit shaky. But whenever you're looking at it this way, you know, these teams have been there before, and if they haven't been there before, they've shown that they should be. You know, both the Braves have played very well. The Rays have played very well. Neither team being to the World Series in a minute. But the Astros and Dodgers both have recent history of World Series appearances. And so the cores are all there. All the pieces are set. We're going to see exactly what happens. First pitch for the Astros Rays is tomorrow on Sunday. So we will get to see the first bit of action tomorrow for the American League. And then the National League starts the next day. Any closing thoughts going into the championship series?
No, not really. I'm excited for more baseball, of course, since we're nearing the end of the season. I'm sad to see it go. But, yeah, I just hope all the teams have fun, except the Astros. They don't deserve fun. No, fun.
They do not deserve fun. Over under, if this game goes more than 4 games, how many Astros players are getting plunked?
Over under?
I'll say over under 3.5. You take the over or the under?
I'm going to say the under. The Rays are only apparently that team when they're facing the Yankees. So I'll say under. I'll say under.
Fair enough. All right. I think their Astros revenge tour has ended, and so now it's just a matter of getting them out of the playoffs. So we'll see exactly who is able to do it, or if anybody's able to do it, and we'll have updates on that in the next episode when we come to you with the World Series preview. And so thank you guys for watching another episode of GMs for Hire. For Matt and Will, this has been our predictions on the championship series, and we will see you in the next one. Take it easy.